Marcus Williams pressed his face against the cold bus window, watching the familiar streets of Riverside Heights blur past. At 14, he had learned to keep his head down and his mouth shut in this neighborhood, where being a young black boy meant automatic suspicion. The afternoon sun cast long shadows between the rundown apartment buildings and corner stores that made up his world. His backpack felt heavier today. Not because of the textbooks inside, but because of the weight of another disappointing report card. 3 Ds and a C- in algebra. His grandmother would be heartbroken, and Marcus couldn't bear to see that look in her eyes again. She worked double shifts at the hospital just to keep their small apartment, and he felt like he was letting her down every single day. The bus lurched to a stop at 5th and Morrison, and Marcus stepped off into the familiar chaos of his neighborhood. Children played in the streets while their mothers called to them from apartment windows. The smell of fried chicken and car exhaust mixed in the warm air. This was home, but lately it felt more like a trap as he walked toward his building. Marcus noticed something unusual happening near the playground. A police car sat at an odd angle, its driver door hanging open. Officer Sarah Chun was leaning against the vehicle, one hand pressed to her very pregnant belly, the other gripping her radio. Even from a distance, Marcus could see something was wrong. Most kids in his neighborhood had learned to avoid police officers. Too many stories, too many misunderstandings that ended badly. But something about Officer Chun was different. She had been patrolling their area for almost 2 years now, and Marcus had watched her interact with the community. She actually listened when people talked to her. She knew the kids' names and asked about their school grades. She had even helped Mrs. Rodriguez get her stolen bicycle back last month. Now she looked like she was in serious trouble. Marcus hesitated at the corner, his grandmother's warnings echoing in his head. "Stay away from police business," she always said. "Nothing good comes from getting involved." But as he watched, Officer Chun doubled over in obvious pain, and her radio crackled with static but no clear response. His feet started moving before his brain could stop them. "Officer Chun?" Marcus called out as he approached cautiously. "Are you okay?" Sarah looked up, her face pale and twisted with discomfort. She recognized the boy immediately, Marcus Williams, one of the good kids in the neighborhood despite all the challenges he faced. She had heard about his academic struggles from his grandmother, who worked at the same hospital where Sarah received her prenatal care. "Marcus," she gasped, I think the baby is coming. My radio isn't working properly and my phone is dead. I was responding to a call about kids throwing rocks at cars, but now..." Another wave of pain hit her as she gripped the car door tighter. Marcus felt his heart racing. He had never been in a situation like this, but he knew he couldn't just walk away. "How far along are you supposed to be?" he asked, trying to remember anything useful from health class. 37 weeks, Sarah panted. "The baby isn't due for another 3 weeks, but babies don't follow schedules." She tried to smile, but another contraction made her wince. Okay, Marcus said, his mind racing. "Let me think. The hospital is only 6 blocks from here, but walking might take too long. And waiting for an ambulance." He looked around the neighborhood, knowing that emergency services sometimes took longer to respond to calls from this area. "Your radio," Marcus said suddenly. "Let me try it." He had watched enough cop shows to know that police radios worked differently than regular phones. Maybe he could figure out how to get a clear signal. Sarah nodded weakly and showed him how to operate the radio. Marcus tried several different channels, but the static remained heavy. Then he remembered something his friend Tony had told him about radio signals being clearer from higher positions. "Officer Chun, I'm going to run up to the roof of that building." Marcus pointed to the 5-story apartment complex nearby. "The radio might work better from up there. Will you be okay for a few minutes?" Sarah nodded, though she was clearly struggling. "Be careful, Marcus. And thank you." Marcus sprinted toward the building, taking the stairs 3 at a time. His lungs burned as he climbed, but he pushed through the discomfort. On the roof, he tried the radio again, and this time his voice came through clearly to the police dispatcher. "This is an emergency," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Officer Sarah Chun is at 5th and Morrison, and she's having a baby." She needs an ambulance right away. The dispatcher's voice crackled back. Who is this? How did you get police equipment? My name is Marcus Williams, he said quickly. Officer Chun gave me her radio because hers wasn't working down there. She's in labor and she needs help now. Are you with Officer Chun? Yes, well, I'm on a roof trying to get better signal. She's by her police car at 5th and Morrison. Please send help. Units are responding. Stay on the line. Marcus raced back down the stairs and returned to find Officer Chun sitting on the ground next to her patrol car, breathing heavily. Help is coming, he told her. The ambulance should be here soon. But as they waited, it became clear that the baby had its own timeline. Officer Chun's contractions were getting closer together, and she was struggling to stay calm. Marcus, she said between breaths, I need you to call my husband. His number is in my phone? She pointed to her patrol car. The phone is in the center console. It might have enough battery for one call. Marcus found the phone and managed to get it powered on just long enough to find David Chun's contact information. The call went straight to voicemail. Mr. Chun, this is Marcus Williams, he said quickly. I'm with your wife Sarah at 5th and Morrison. She's having the baby now, and an ambulance is coming. You need to get to Riverside General Hospital as soon as you can. By now, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered at a respectful distance. Marcus recognized Mrs. Johnson from his building and Mr. Garcia from the corner store. They looked concerned but uncertain about whether they should approach a police officer, even one who clearly needed help. Mrs. Johnson, Marcus called out. Can you bring some clean towels and maybe a bottle of water? The older woman nodded and hurried away. Returning quickly with the requested items, Mr. Garcia offered his jacket as a blanket, and slowly the community began to rally around the situation. Officer Chun managed a weak smile as she saw the neighbors helping. This wasn't exactly how I planned to meet everyone in the community, she said to Marcus. Well, you're about to have the best introduction story ever, Marcus replied. Trying to keep her spirits up despite his own nervousness, the sound of sirens finally reached them, growing louder as the ambulance navigated through the narrow streets. Marcus had never been so relieved to hear that sound. But as the paramedics arrived and began taking over Officer Chun's care, he started to step back, assuming his part in the situation was finished. Wait, Officer Chun called out as the paramedics helped her onto a stretcher. Marcus, I want you to come with me to the hospital. You probably saved my life today, and I want my baby to meet the young man who helped bring him into the world. Marcus looked around uncertainly. He had never been in an ambulance before, and the thought made him nervous. Plus, his grandmother would be expecting him home soon. I should probably ... Please, Officer Chun said. I don't have any family here except my husband, and he's stuck in traffic across town. I could really use a friend right now. One of the paramedics, a kind-looking woman named Janet, smiled at Marcus. You did great work today, son. If Officer Chun wants you there, we'll make sure you can ride along safely. As the ambulance pulled away from the neighborhood with Marcus sitting beside the stretcher, he couldn't help but think about how strange life could be. This morning he had been worried about a bad report card, and now he was helping deliver a baby. Sometimes the most important moments came when you least expected them. At the hospital, everything moved quickly. Marcus found himself in the unusual position of being the only person with Officer Chun as she was admitted to the maternity ward. The nurses assumed he was family and included him in conversations about her care until her husband finally arrived. Breathless and worried, David Chun was a tall, gentle man who taught high school mathematics. When he learned what Marcus had done, his eyes filled with tears. Thank you, he said simply, gripping Marcus's shoulder. Thank you for taking care of my wife and my baby. 3 hours later, Marcus found himself holding baby Michael Chun, a healthy 7-pound boy with his mother's dark hair and his father's calm expression. Officer Chun looked exhausted but radiant as she watched Marcus gently rock her son. You know, Marcus, she said softly, I've been thinking. My husband David teaches at Roosevelt High School. He tells me they have an excellent tutoring program for students who want to improve their grades. Marcus looked up from the baby. surprised that she would know about his academic struggles. "Your grandmother and I work at the same hospital," Officer Chun explained. "She's very proud of you, but she's also worried. Maybe David and I can help. Consider it a small way of saying thank you for what you did today." As Marcus handed baby Michael back to his mother, he realized that this day had changed something fundamental in his life. He had discovered that he was capable of more. 3 weeks after baby Michael Chun came into the world, Marcus Williams found himself sitting in an unfamiliar classroom at Roosevelt High School. The tutoring program that David Chun had mentioned turned out to be more comprehensive than Marcus had expected. Instead of just helping with homework, it was designed to identify and address the root causes of academic struggles. "Mathematics is like learning a language," David Chun explained to the small group of students gathered after school. "If you miss some of the basic vocabulary early on, everything else becomes confusing. We're going to go back and make sure you understand the foundation before we build on it." Marcus was skeptical at first. He had heard similar promises from teachers before, but Mr. Chun's approach was different. Instead of making Marcus feel stupid for not understanding algebra, he helped him discover that the real problem was gaps in his understanding of basic mathematical operations. Problems that could be fixed with patience and the right explanation. Over the following weeks, Marcus began to see improvements not just in math but in his other subjects as well. The confidence he gained from finally understanding mathematical concepts spilled over into his English and science classes. For the first time in years, he actually looked forward to taking tests, but the most significant changes in Marcus's life weren't happening in the classroom. Officer Sarah Chun had returned to work after her maternity leave. But her perspective on community policing had been transformed by the experience of being helped by Marcus. She had seen firsthand how quickly neighbors had rallied to help when they saw someone in genuine need. Regardless of that person's profession or background, she began implementing new approaches to her patrol work, focusing on building relationships rather than just responding to problems. She started a program where officers would stop by local schools not to arrest or investigate, but simply to read to younger children and help with homework. The initiative was met with suspicion at first, but gradually parents and teachers began to see positive changes. Marcus became an unofficial liaison between Officer Chun and the community. His unique position as someone who had helped her in a crisis, but who also understood the neighborhood's historical mistrust of police, made him valuable in bridging communication gaps. One afternoon in late October, Marcus was walking home from his tutoring session when he noticed unusual activity around the apartment building next to his own. Several men he didn't recognize were going in and out, carrying boxes and speaking in low voices. Something about their behavior made him uncomfortable. Though he couldn't put his finger on exactly what, his grandmother had always taught him to trust his instincts. So when he saw Officer Chun's patrol car later that evening, he decided to mention what he had observed. "It's probably nothing," Marcus said as Sarah rolled down her window. "But there's been some strange activity next door. Men I don't recognize, lots of boxes, they seem nervous about something." Sarah took notes and thanked him for the information. "You know, Marcus, you have good observational skills. Have you ever thought about what you want to do after high school?" Marcus shrugged. "Honestly, I was just trying to pass high school. College seems pretty impossible financially." "There are more paths than you might think," Sarah said thoughtfully. "But we can talk about that later. Thanks for the heads up about the activity next door." What Marcus didn't know was that his observation had provided a crucial piece of information that the police had been looking for. They had been investigating reports of a drug distribution operation in the area, but hadn't been able to pinpoint the exact location. Marcus's description of the building and the suspicious activity helped them focus their investigation. 2 days later, Marcus was doing homework in his apartment when he heard shouting and the sound of running footsteps in the hallway outside. His grandmother was working a night shift at the hospital, so he was alone. Through the peephole, he could see several men running down the hall, and one of them was trying door handles as if looking for a way to escape. Marcus quickly turned off his lights and moved away from the door, his heart racing. He could hear police sirens in the distance, growing closer. The men in the hallway were clearly running from something. And Marcus realized that his apartment building was about to become the center of some kind of police action. His phone buzzed with a text message from Officer Chun. Stay inside and lock your door. Police operation in progress in your area. We'll check on you when it's safe. For the next hour, Marcus listened to the sounds of what was clearly a major police operation. Voices shouting commands, doors being broken down, and the constant chatter of police radios. He stayed away from the windows and tried to focus on his algebra homework. But concentration was impossible. Finally, there was a knock at his door that made him freeze with fear. Marcus. It's Officer Chun. It's safe to come out now. When Marcus opened the door, he found Sarah standing in the hallway with two other officers. She looked tired but relieved. Are you okay? She asked immediately. Yeah, I'm fine. What happened? The building next door was being used as a drug packaging and distribution center, Sarah explained. Your observation 2 days ago helped us identify the location. We were able to get a warrant and shut down the operation tonight. Marcus felt a mix of pride and concern. Pride that his information had helped, but concern about what this might mean for his safety. The men who were running the operation know that someone in this area provided information to police. One of the other officers said, We arrested most of them, but a few got away, and they might try to figure out who talked to us. Sarah nodded seriously. That's why I wanted to check on you personally. Your safety is our priority, Marcus. We're going to increase patrols in this area, and I want you to have my personal phone number in case you notice anything unusual. Over the next few weeks, Marcus became acutely aware of being watched. Not by police, but by people in the neighborhood who seemed to be trying to figure out who had helped law enforcement with the drug bust. Most neighbors were happy to see the drug dealers gone. But there were others who viewed any cooperation with police as betrayal. Regardless of the circumstances, Marcus found himself caught in an uncomfortable position. He had done what he thought was right by reporting suspicious activity, but now he felt like he was walking a tightrope between community loyalty and public safety. The situation came to a head on a cold November evening when Marcus was approached by three older teenagers he didn't recognize. They cornered him near the bus stop after his tutoring session. We heard you're the one who snitched to the cops about the operation next door, one of them said, stepping closer to Marcus. I don't know what you're talking about, Marcus replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Don't lie to us, another one said. We know you're tight with that female cop. Word is you helped her out, and now she's your protection. But she can't protect you all the time. Marcus realized that these weren't neighborhood kids. Their clothes and the way they spoke suggested they were connected to the drug operation that had been shut down. They were looking for someone to blame and someone to send a message through. Look, Marcus said, I just live here. I don't have anything to do with police business. That's not what we heard, the first teenager said. Pulling something from his jacket pocket, Marcus saw the glint of metal and realized the situation had just become life-threatening. His mind raced through options, but they had positioned themselves to block his escape routes. Just then, a police car turned the corner, and Marcus had never been so happy to see flashing lights. But instead of being relieved, the teenagers seemed to become more aggressive. This ain't over, one of them hissed as they melted away into the shadows between buildings when Officer Chun got out of the patrol car. She immediately saw the fear on Marcus's face. What happened? Marcus told her about the confrontation, and Sarah's expression grew increasingly serious as she listened. Marcus, I think we need to have a conversation with your grandmother about some options for keeping you safe, she said. This situation has become more complicated than we anticipated. That night, when his grandmother came home from her shift at the hospital, Marcus found himself part of a conversation that would change his life in ways he was only beginning to understand. The police department has a program, Officer Chun explained to Marcus's grandmother, where young people who assist in investigations can receive protection and support, including educational opportunities. There are scholarships available, and even the possibility of relocation if necessary. Marcus's grandmother, Elena Williams, listened carefully. She had raised Marcus since he was 5 years old after his parents died in a car accident. She knew the neighborhood better than anyone, and she understood the dangers that Marcus might now face. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked. "We're proposing that Marcus be accepted into a special program that provides educational support, mentorship, and, if necessary, relocation assistance," Sarah explained. "He showed courage and good judgment in helping me when I was in crisis, and he showed good citizenship in reporting criminal activity. The department wants to invest in his future." Marcus looked back and forth between his grandmother and Officer Chun, trying to process what was being discussed. AF? The decision to enter the police department's protection and educational program wasn't made lightly. Marcus and his grandmother spent long hours discussing the implications, weighing the opportunities against the risks. Elena Williams had worked hard her entire life to provide stability for Marcus, and the idea of potentially having to relocate was both frightening and heartbreaking. "This neighborhood has problems," Elena told Officer Chun during one of their meetings, "but it's also been our home for 9 years. Marcus has friends here, I have a good job at the hospital, and we've built a life." Sarah understood the difficulty of the decision. "The goal isn't necessarily relocation," she explained. "The program is designed to provide support and protection while allowing participants to remain in their communities when possible. But we want to have options available if the situation becomes too dangerous." Meanwhile, Marcus continued attending his tutoring sessions and trying to maintain a normal routine, but the tension was constant. He found himself looking over his shoulder, avoiding certain areas of the neighborhood, and constantly aware of who was watching him. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. David Chun had been quietly researching scholarship opportunities for Marcus. Impressed by the young man's rapid improvement in mathematics and his natural leadership qualities, during a family dinner conversation with Sarah, he mentioned a program he had discovered at the state university. "It's called the Community Leadership Scholarship," David explained. "It's specifically designed for students who have demonstrated exceptional civic engagement and academic improvement. The scholarship covers full tuition, housing, and provides mentorship support." Sarah looked up from feeding baby Michael. "That sounds perfect for Marcus. What are the requirements?" "The student needs to have a record of community service, demonstrated academic improvement, and letters of recommendation from community leaders," David said. "But here's the interesting part. Recipients of the scholarship are also offered internship opportunities with various civic organizations, including law enforcement, city government, and community development programs." That evening, Sarah visited Marcus and his grandmother to discuss the scholarship opportunity. As she explained the program, Marcus felt a spark of excitement that he hadn't experienced in months. "It would mean leaving for college a year early," Sarah explained, "which would also solve the immediate safety concerns. You'd be in a completely different environment, but you'd also be preparing for a career where you could make a real difference in communities like this one." Elena Williams looked at her grandson, seeing the hope in his eyes that had been missing during the weeks of worry about retaliation. "What do you think, Marcus?" she asked. "I think," Marcus said slowly, "that maybe this is what's supposed to happen. Maybe helping Officer Chun wasn't just about that one day. Maybe it was about opening a door to something bigger." The application process for the Community Leadership Scholarship was intensive, requiring essays, interviews, and a presentation about Marcus's vision for community improvement. But the experiences of the past few months had given him plenty to write about, and his grades had improved dramatically thanks to the tutoring program. The most challenging part of the application was the essay question. Describe a time when you took action to help others, and explain how that experience shaped your understanding of community responsibility. Marcus wrote about the afternoon when he decided to help a pregnant police officer instead of walking away. He wrote about learning that doing the right thing sometimes comes with unexpected consequences, but that those consequences can also lead to opportunities for growth and positive change. I learned that being part of a community means more than just living in the same neighborhood, Marcus wrote. It means being willing to step up when someone needs help, even when it's inconvenient or scary. It means understanding that our individual choices can have far-reaching effects on the people around us. While waiting to hear about the scholarship, Marcus experienced one more significant event that would reinforce his decision to pursue this path. In early December, he was walking home from the library when he noticed a commotion near the elementary school playground. A small child, probably around 6 years old, had gotten separated from her family and was crying inconsolably while several adults tried to figure out who she belonged to. Marcus approached the group and knelt down to the child's level. "Hey there," he said gently. "What's your name?" "Sophia," the little girl sniffled. "That's a pretty name." "I'm Marcus." "Can you tell me what your mommy looks like?" As Sophia described her mother, Marcus realized he knew the family. They lived in his building, and he had seen them around the neighborhood many times. "I know where your mommy lives," Marcus told Sophia. "Let me call her for you." Using his phone, Marcus contacted building management to get the family's apartment number, then called to let Sophia's mother know where her daughter was. Within minutes, Maria Santos came running toward the playground, tears of relief streaming down her face. "Thank you so much," she said to Marcus as she hugged her daughter. "I turned around for 1 second at the grocery store and she was gone. I've been looking everywhere." Later that evening, Maria Santos knocked on Marcus's door to thank him again and to give him a plate of homemade tamales. But she also had something else to tell him. "I wanted you to know," she said, "that I heard what happened with those boys who were threatening you a few weeks ago. I also know that you're the one who helped Officer Chun when she was having her baby." Marcus nodded, unsure where the conversation was heading. "There are a lot of people in this neighborhood who are grateful for what you've done," Maria continued. "We may not always say it out loud, but we notice when someone consistently tries to help others. My daughter is safe tonight because you took the time to help a child you didn't even know." She paused, then added, "I also wanted you to know that if anyone gives you trouble because you helped the police, there are families here who will speak up for you. You're not alone in this community." As Marcus closed the door that evening, he realized that his actions had indeed created ripple effects throughout the community, but not all of them were negative. For every person who viewed his cooperation with police as betrayal, there seemed to be others who saw it as responsible citizenship. 2 weeks later, Marcus received the phone call that would change everything. "Congratulations," the voice on the other end said. "You've been selected to receive the Community Leadership Scholarship. Your application was one of the most compelling we've reviewed in years." The scholarship would allow Marcus to start college in January, just 2 weeks after his 15th birthday. The program included housing on campus, which would solve the immediate safety concerns, but also opportunities for internships and mentorship that could shape his entire career path. Elena Williams cried when Marcus told her the news, tears of pride mixed with sadness at the thought of her grandson leaving home so young. But she knew it was the right opportunity at the right time. Officer Sarah Chun and her husband David were among the first people Marcus called to share the good news. When he visited them to say goodbye, baby Michael was now crawling around their living room. A healthy and happy 3-month-old who had no idea that his birth had been the catalyst for these life-changing events. "You know," Sarah said as she watched Marcus play with Michael, "I've been thinking about that day when you helped me. I was so focused on having the baby safely that I didn't fully appreciate what you risked by getting involved." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. A young black man approaching a police officer in distress could have gone very wrong, especially in that neighborhood where tensions run high, Sarah explained. You could have been misunderstood or blamed if something had gone badly, but you chose to help anyway because it was the right thing to do. She paused, then continued, "I think that's the quality that made you stand out for this scholarship. It's not just that you're smart or that you can overcome academic challenges. It's that you have the courage to do what's right even when it might cost you something." On Marcus's last day in the neighborhood before leaving for college, He took a walk around the familiar streets that had been his world for so many years. He stopped by the playground where he had first seen Officer Chun in distress, remembering how different his life had been just 6 months earlier. Mrs. Johnson from his building saw him and called out from her window, "Marcus, I heard about your scholarship. We're all so proud of you." Similar calls came from other neighbors as he walked, and Marcus realized that his story had become part of the neighborhood's collective memory. Children who didn't even know him had heard about the boy who helped the police officer have her baby, and then earned a full scholarship to college. At the bus stop where he had been threatened just weeks earlier, Marcus met Officer Chun for one final conversation. "I want you to understand something," Sarah said. "The protection and opportunities you've received aren't just rewards for helping me that day. They're investments in your potential to make a positive difference in the world." She handed him an envelope. "This is a letter of recommendation for any future opportunities you might pursue. But more importantly, it's a promise that you'll always have Avocat."